Hey, what's up? This is Nick, co-founder and CEO at Suits and Sandals. A few days ago, I sat down with my other co-founder and chief creative officer, Miles, as well as our art director, Max, to talk about one of our recent projects in the insurance tech space. It was a really fun conversation, and I can't wait to share it with you. Check it out. So today we're going to be talking about a project that we did for a company called Arturo. Arturo is a property intelligence technology company, and they designed their service to enable homeowners insurance carriers to make intelligent decisions that benefit their businesses and their policyholders using the power of AI. Arturo recently went through a rebranding process. They had this really cool, really interesting and innovative new brand identity, but it wasn't reflected on their website. So there were some issues around the website that they really needed to address. And at the same time, they also wanted to make sure that they could stand out against their competitors. And what we found is that their competitors are actually using a lot of the same sort of visual techniques and things like that to describe, to explain how their product works. Let's quickly take a look at what the website used to look like. So I actually pulled up on the Wayback Machine a snapshot of Arturo's site from like January of 2023. So it's recent enough, but generally we've got a lot of white space, blue and white kind of color palettes for the most part. Not really a whole lot going on in terms of showing how the technology works right from the homepage. So it wasn't very reflective of what Arturo does and showing the potential customer how things work in a more tangible and accurate way. So let's start with this. How did we interpret the Arturo brand for the context of this website?
We received an in-progress brand guideline that another agency was working on. It was a really comprehensive package, and we really loved how unique the style was. We worked closely with the Arturo team and the brand team to see how far can we push it? Can we create new expressions of the brand? It actually helped refine and expand the brand.
We wanted to find that balance between, modern and traditional, but also like what's the motif. One thing we noticed is in their brand names is they had ultraviolet purple, they have laser green, and then they have these lines that are refracting. They have these glass objects that have gradients in them. So we kind of started to close in on the idea of using light and refractions.
A website experience is very temporal, right? You're sort of scrolling through pages, you're clicking on things over time. And a lot of that influences what the interaction should feel like for the user. And, when we're thinking about just things like art or the way that interaction design works, we want everything to feel really cohesive. So as you're talking about all that stuff, Max, it's very, very connected to the brand and the actual service that they offer. When you start to create this like deep association between who the brand is and what they do, and then reflecting that into like interactions like clicking on buttons or drop downs or scroll based animations or whatever, all of that stuff starts to feel much more connected. Let's take a look at how we then interpreted that into, let's say, like the homepage design. We've got this animated video playing, right up at the top. Then we're also into the actual type, and it allows to change the message in a really interesting way.
It's so tempting for people to just say everything that they want to say and show all the value proposition, because rightfully so, like we have an awesome company, we have great products. I want everyone to know about it like right away. But you don't need to like say everything all at once, because by doing that, you're actually not saying anything at all.
So this section right here, I think, is actually also a really good place to focus on. What we've done is allow the sort of like this interaction with scrolling to just replace the content. So it feels like you're locked in one section of the page, but the information is changing. So we were using one image content pair lockup, but swapping out the images, making sure that those images actually communicate some information through movement, and then also swapping out the text. And then we're giving, a visual cue of like how long this whole interaction is going to last.
If you look at their old website, when you compare it with something like this, where it's okay to present one idea at a time instead of here where you just get a wall of ideas and content. There's just all this text. I'm not going to read this, right? Whereas here, there's kind of a better tempo and like a better like pacing.
Right off the bat, you're showing the product, which is setting you up for the platform overview page, which is kind of an expansion of their product. So
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Why don't we take a look at that page now then? So this is kind of the cornerstone of the entire website in terms of the interaction and also the storytelling, right? So this page, what we wanted to do is there's different solutions that they offer for different segments of, an insurance company, underwriting, risk, and then claims. And so to really explain how Arturo works and how it can be implemented within an insurance company's organization, you could just use it for risk, or you could just use it for underwriting. But in insurance, there's a whole process. There's kind of like a life cycle. And Arturo supports that entire life cycle. So we figured, let's talk about it, right? From the top to the bottom. What's the entire journey that, someone that signs up for a policy with a specific insurance company would experience, and the way in which Arturo can support the insurance company throughout that entire journey. And we still want to make it so that way there's information for each individual team, because at an insurance company, there's going to be people that work in underwriting that don't care about the risk or the claims. So, we created this sort of end-to-end journey that really follows one specific customer and their life cycle. It's all scroll interaction. There's different techniques that we're using in terms of 3D imaging, satellite imaging, the scanning, the data highlights, low fidelity UI. So we have this navigation up at the top that allows you to dive into just the piece that you're interested in. And then, of course, there's a back to top button that just is an escape hatch that gets you right back to other pages on the site. We have the insurance solution pages that are dedicated to each individual kind of segment of the business, but this platform overview just tells you that whole end-to-end story. So one of the techniques that we're kind of seeing, especially up at the top here, is this like revealing, having one card push out of the way and reveal something that's underneath it. Another thing that we used is kind of transitions from light to dark.
We knew that dark felt right, especially with these, violet colors and this, laser green. We knew that we wanted 50% of the site to be white or light and 50% of the site to be dark. So when we were presenting these ideas, we kind of like got the aha right there to like, okay, let's do the changing on scroll. You get rid of that banding and that stacking, but you also illuminate and shine light on things. You're turning a light switch on. It's right on brand with the motif.
When you're trying to be visually interesting and visually innovative, sometimes there's an expectation that like in order for it to really feel like super impactful, that you have to do a lot, like there has to be a lot going on. And it's really, at the end of the day, I think more so about restraint, finding the solutions that work well and just kind of like limiting things, allowing things to kind of breathe. There is a lot going on, but we're using it in such small quantities. It's very sparing. So that way it doesn't feel overwhelming. There's a lot more like kind of this sense of like being in a space of data and AI.
Restraint is like a keyword there. Designers also want to like do all of the tricks all at one go. We're achieving that parallax and that depth just literally with these tiny little dots, and there's only a handful of them. That allows the content to breathe, for things to be legible and not overwhelming, and just be at the background.
On some of the more static things, a lot of those key art that we have that are sort of like these 3D graphics, they're like kind of these wavy lines and stuff. And it's like not super sharp and spiky waves, but really sort of like rolling hills kind of waves, It kind of becomes a theme for the entire site, this kind of like idea of what Arturo does, reduction of friction that it provides to the customer and how much smoother it makes the customer journey is then reflected in every decision that we make regarding interaction, regarding layout, regarding, all of these different visual solutions that we're implementing. All right. Thanks for joining us as we relived the creative process and talked about some of the strategies we used on the Arturo website. And I hope you learned something that you can bring into your next creative project. If you're into this kind of thing and want to peek behind the curtain on client projects and the experimental designs that we're doing over at Suits and Sandals, give us a follow. And of course, drop a like on this video, leave a comment, share with a friend, all that jazz. It'll really help us out. All right. See ya.